How do you ensure you're going to have a smooth transaction with your clients? A real estate transaction has multiple things going on, right? There's all sorts of different roadblocks and speed bumps and everything that you have to navigate through. So how do you ensure that you're going to have a smooth transaction with your clients? Always be upfront and transparent with your clients, right? Make sure you're sitting down with them if you're working with the buyer and have a buyer consultation. Make sure you're walking them through the entire process so nothing comes as a surprise to them. Make sure that they know they're going to have money set aside for their earnest money deposit, called EMD, their appraisal, their inspections. These are all upfront costs that, guess what? If you're working with a first-time home buyer, they don't know unless you tell them. So you don't want it to be a surprise and have them fall in love with the house and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, you need to come up with $5,000 in order to be able to get this house. You know, be upfront and transparent with your clients from the beginning. Our team is very transparent with all the upfront costs. It's even echoed from our transaction coordinator. So when our agents put a property under contract and we hand it over to our TC, the first thing she's doing is reminding them about all the costs that are going to be incurred during the transaction. When you're showing homes to your client, make sure you show them all the issues that you see, right? Your job is to be the eyes and ears. Like, they don't do this on a daily basis. That's your job. So you need to make sure if you see something that's definitely a problem, point it out. Because if you don't point it out now, it's gonna show up on the inspection and become a bigger issue later, right? If you're there with them walking through the house and you see, let's say, a crack in the drywall, well, guess what? There's a lot of cracks in drywalls. It doesn't mean it's a huge issue, but if you just kind of gaze over it and keep on walking down the hallway, then you're not gonna be able to be there when the inspector's there. So the inspector may go, oh my God, there's a crack in the drywall, and your buyer freaks out, right? You wanna make sure that you're heading those things off at the pass. Another thing we do when we're walking through homes with our clients is we look at the age of the HVAC unit, the air conditioner, and the hot water heater. And the reason that's important is if those things are old and outdated, it's gonna be very difficult to possibly get insurance on that home. So wouldn't you rather explain that to your client when you're walking through the house going, oh, by the way, it looks like the HVAC unit is 30 years old and this is probably gonna come up on the inspection and it may be something we need to think about in negotiating in our offer price, or know that, hey, there may be some repairs that need to be done with this unit. Same thing with the hot water heater. If that thing's 15 years old, the insurance company is gonna require that it gets changed out. So do you want to wait for the inspector to tell your client about that? Or do you want to be proactive versus reactive and then tell them about that up front? So make sure that now you're showing them your value, right? So now they know that they can trust you because you know what's going on. And another great way to find the age of these HVAC units and these hot water heaters is look at the serial number. We have our agents take a picture of the tag on those units, and if you go to building-center.org, it will actually show you a breakdown, and you can actually, from the serial number, you can determine how old that unit is. That's a little hack that most agents don't know about, but make sure you put that in your phone. I've actually got it saved right on my home screen, so that way I can, boom, quickly look at it. I can actually do it while I'm walking through a house with a client, and that way we know the age of that unit before we ever even leave the home. So once you're under contract, you've got lenders to deal with, you've got title companies to deal with, you've got the other agent to deal with, you've got there's a ton of people involved in the transaction. So you need to make sure you're following up with these people in a timely manner. That's one of the reasons we have a TC. We have a dedicated person who's responsible for that file once it goes under contract. So they're readily available during working hours to make sure that everybody gets responded to in a timely fashion. Another thing you need to do to make sure you have a smooth transaction is stay in touch with your client. They are nervous, they are scared, they don't know what's next, right? So even if you have no update for them, reach out to them and say, hey, we're in this kind of waiting period. And that's what I tell my clients up front is, hey, once we get through the appraisal and the inspection, I call that the hurry up and wait period, right? Because we're just waiting to get to closing. Most of the stuff is being done in the background between the lender and the title company. And this is a time when the lender's asking the buyer for additional paperwork and all these kind of things, but there's really not a lot going on from the realtor side of things. We're just tracking and making sure everybody else is kind of doing what they're supposed to do. But it's a time when the client can get kind of nervous because you really can go like 8, 10, 14 days where there really doesn't need to be any contact, but you can't let that happen. You need to just reach out to them so they know you're there in case they have any questions. Because when there's nothing going on, that's when their wheels start turning in their head and they start making up crazy things like,
oh my God, the whole deal's gonna fall apart. Why is this happening? No one's called me in 3 days. Like, something's wrong, something's wrong.
That's not the case at all. It's just that hurry up and wait period.